Okay, great.
Okay, good. Do you want to share your screen now, Alyssa?
Yes, I will share my screen. I'll just make it clean. Okay, so now, Melissa, can you just let me know, can you see the home page for the Diploma of Business on your computer screen?
No, I've just got a blank white screen that says Diploma of Business Planning webinar.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I did have the home page before.
All right. Okay, great. I think it's just because we swapped presenters over, or because we swapped organisers. I think it's just waiting for the screen. So let's just.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I can see it too.
Beautiful. All right, lovely. Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, cool. Welcome to the very first webinar on planning. Just to clear a couple of things up, planning is all the subjects are exactly as they were in your previous system. You'll notice that there's some new titles. So the word planning is just a new subject title. The subject itself was still available in the old system. It was something that was previously known as manage personal work priorities and professional development. So that's the actual unit itself, or the subject. When we say subject and units, we're effectively saying the same thing, just to clear up a little bit of terminology there. So you'll see that there's some new names. For example, the second subject that you'll see on the screen there is project planning. That is just a new name for what was previously known as undertake project work. Effective communication, for example, as a subject there was previously known as manage meetings. And staff recruitment, well, that was always known as staff recruitment, and there's a few others that remain effectively the same, like make a presentation and business documents and so forth. But there's a couple that have changed. Just be wary that it's exactly the same course that you've been previously working on in terms of the subjects, in terms of the structure, and so on and so forth. As far as the webinars go, this is the first in the series. You will have noticed on the actual invitation that there was a couple of types, or there was a section that said type. And this type is what we call a resource type. So there are going to be 6 webinars for each subject. Now, each of the webinars are scheduled to go for approximately 1 hour for each. And we have 3 webinars that we call our resource types, and 3 that we call our assessment support webinars. So in effect, what we're doing is the first half, or the first 3 webinars that we do for each subject, all we're going to be doing is just going to be talking about the material. We're just going to be talking about the content, and then what we're going to be doing is aligning that discussion with the actual questions that you see in the learning activities. So I'll clear a little bit of that up as well for you too, but I'll just sort of explain what goes in the second part. The second half was what we call our assessment support workshops. Now what they are going to be directed at is effectively just talking about and unpacking each of the actual assessment tasks. So in this subject planning, you actually have 3 major pieces of work that you need to hand in. They are called assessment tasks. We'll be actually conducting a specific webinar for each of those assessment tasks. And in that webinar, we'll be actually unpacking and breaking down what the requirements of the work that you need to submit. We'll be discussing things that we'll be looking for in the work that you submit. And you'll actually be able to ask questions that are directed and specifically related to the actual assignment and you may be working on at that particular time. So that's basically what the webinar series will be about. When you see the word resource, then you know it's in reference to the actual material and learning activities. When you see assessment support, you know that it's actually in reference to the actual assessments, assisting you with the actual assessment work itself. So I hope that sort of clears up a little bit about what the webinars are about. We're really excited. Alyssa and I will be running them together. We're very excited to be doing these and helping you guys with your workloads and what have you. Alyssa, are you there?
I am indeed. I am listening to your lovely voice, Adam.
Sounds good. Sounds good. That's all that matters. Should we do like a quick little introduction of ourselves? I know it's only Melissa here, but there'll be plenty others that'll be tuning in.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's do it. So do you want to start? Do you mind?
Yeah, no, I'll start. Hi, Melissa. My name's easy to remember because it's kind of like yours, but it's Alyssa. So I'm one of the other online academic assessors or online academic trainers and working with Adam. So a bit about me. I have been probably in vocational education and training for about maybe 7.5 years. Prior to that, it was pretty much all hospitality. So I've got a background in human resources and training in hotels. Yeah, I love what I do. Online learning for me, and particularly this type of stuff, is really exciting because it's quite unique, and it's actually a very interesting kind of evolution of learning and education. I like doing these types of webinars as well, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I guess, working with all the students to be able to help get them through their Diploma of Business and their Diploma of Management. I am really easygoing, so a bit like Adam. I'm a bit like Adam, and very flexible. You can ask me lots of questions if you're unsure about anything, and yeah, look, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm sure as the session goes on, you'll find out a little bit more about me as well. Okay. Adam, are you there?
I am here. Shiji, welcome. Can you guys please just mute your microphones just so that the extra audio doesn't go through? Guys, can I just get you to mute your microphones, please?
Yep. They're both muted now.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Cool. A little bit about me. I've been working in the vocational training area for about 12 to 18 months. I come from a background in business, I guess predominantly in sales. I worked in music publishing for 5 years. I've worked in advertising. I've worked in the construction industry, the resource industry. I've also, like Alyssa, had some experience in hospitality. I managed a bar for a couple of years. I've worked in hostels. I've had quite a range of different experiences in the world of business, from small businesses to medium enterprises, and also working with large firms as well. So I've got a bit of an understanding on how different organisations are set up, how they work. I'm also studying myself. So currently I'm completing my graduate diploma in business administration, on the way to a Masters of Business. I've also completed the course that you guys are doing at the moment, of course, amongst a few other things as well. So this is where I come to be where I am. Now, let's just get stuck straight into the actual into the material, but before we do, I think it'd be a really good idea just to do a quick little, and this is for the benefit of you guys that are here today, but also for those that are going to tune into this at a later stage, just a quick little 30-second to 1 minute overview of our brand new learning management system, which is effectively our new website where you're coming to. Let's have a bit of a look at it and see if we can just clear up a couple of things for you guys. So Alyssa, at the moment we're looking at Alyssa's computer screen, and I'm talking. So Alyssa, you're going to drive, and I'm going to talk.
Cool. Can everybody see my screen, and can everybody see me waving my little cursor? Okay. Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's
get started. So a couple things, as I mentioned earlier, just to clear up, the word subject and units are effectively the same thing, and there's also another word, module. They're all kind of the same sorts of things. So there's a couple of ways that you can navigate to each of the subjects. Firstly, what we're looking at right now is what we call the home page, your course homepage. So this is the homepage for the Diploma of Business students, and you can see each of the coloured blocks is effectively a subject. You have 8 subjects to complete the entire course, and the first subject you see in your list there is one called planning. If you click on that, that'll actually open what we call the subject homepage, if you like, or the subject page. So Alyssa's clicking on that now. And what happens is you can actually see a whole range of different things. The first thing you'll see is a PDF file, which is what we call the Unit of Study Overview. This just gives you a bit of an overarching view of what the actual subject's about. Underneath that, we have a series of supplementary materials, which I do suggest and encourage you guys all to have a look at. In the supplementary materials, we have a list of reference materials, so books that we recommend, so recommended readings, We also have some TED Talks and industry videos. There's a really cool little video here. It goes for about 10 minutes. One's called Thoughts Become Things. It's a gentleman by the name of Michael Dooley that's talking about the creative power of creative thought, not creative power of thought, the other way around. And we also have a whole raft of online resources for you. Now, that might be in the way of an article, or that might be some sort of learning activity, other things that are there to assist you with that particular subject. So it's on a subject-by-subject basis. So that's the supplementary materials. Thanks, Alyssa. Let's go back. So when you go back to the actual subjects page, you can see a couple of things. One, you've got your list of lessons and learning activities. Now the first, if you hover your mouse, Alyssa, over the learning material, first one, yeah. So that is actually your learning material or your course material. That's where you click on to actually get the content, to scroll through and get the information that you need for the actual subject itself. So there's a little next button there. When you finish reading that page, you click on the next button, or as Alyssa's just pointed there, you can actually just click directly to the page, the content that you're looking for on the left. There's the little menu there. You can do it that way. Always click on the little icons you see on the screen there because they are interactive. So if you click on them, it'll open up a video or it'll open up some audio and so on and so forth. Just to clear up a couple of things, I might get you to click back to the subject homepage there, Alyssa. Just to clear up a couple of things, we have what we call learning activities and we have assessments. Now the learning activities are effectively a series of questions. If you guys remember with the old system you had a series of questions, this is no different. So those questions are there and designed to effectively review the information that you've just read in the learning material. So the learning material will actually talk about things like work priorities, goal setting, learning, feedback and professional growth. And what happens is once you finish reading the learning material, then be able to go off and review that in the learning activities. Those activities are there for you to actually engage in the material. The main body of work and the main accessible work that we're looking for is what we call the assessments. So we'd like you to get through those learning activities as quickly as you can because then you'll need to start the actual assessments. The assessments are the main bodies of work that you'll be handing in for each of the subjects. In this particular subject planning you have 3 assessment tasks. Now you'll see there on the screen that they are actually restricted. The assessment task number 1 is restricted. Why is it restricted? It's saying that it's restricted until a learning activity are marked as complete. So what we mean by that is that we require you to do those little learning activities or the questions before you begin your actual final assessments. Now we will be marking these learning activities and providing you feedback with those, but once you've actually completed the attempt, once you've attempted that activity, you should be right to therefore go off and do the next one. You'll see that it's grayed out at the moment. Once those learning activities have been done, then those assessments will be open and available for you to work on and begin submitting work on. So that's a little bit of an overview of our brand new system. Before we push on any further out of the guys that are in the webinar today, you're welcome just to put a little chat in the little chat window there. Has anybody been able to log in successfully so far to the new system? And has anybody got any questions on the brand new system just before we get started on this particular subject? So out of the guys that are in the webinar today, if you guys want to just write in the little chat window there, have you guys been able to log on okay to the new system, and have you got any questions that you'd like to ask before we get started, just in reference to how the new system works? Okay, so, yep, okay, great. So you're okay? That's fantastic. It's a pretty intuitive sort of system. It's quite easy to use. Can't go too wrong. You will see that if you click on, actually, Alyssa, I'll get you to do this. Click on the home button. There's a little home button on the top left of your screen there. Yep, click there. If you ever need to speak to your trainer, you'll notice that there's something called a Message My Trainer. It's not on your screen, Alyssa. Maybe it's on the actual homepage of the course. Do you know where your Message My Trainer block is?
Yeah, so mine is actually on the homepage itself.
Oh, okay, so yeah, the course homepage, beg your pardon.
Yeah, so just up here.
You'll see that there's a Message My Teacher and there's a picture of me and my name is just there. It's a way that you can communicate with your trainer directly. just use that message function, and we're always only a phone call away or a message away. We can always be there to give you a helping hand. I think without further ado, I'm happy to get stuck into the actual subject itself. The very, very first subject that we're going to be talking about is actually called goal setting. I'm going to ask the guys that are in the webinar right now, have the guys that are in the webinar right now, have you guys set goals before? Have you got any experience, or have you got anything that you'd like to share with all of us? If you'd like to share something, just let us know in the chat window and then unmute the microphone and you can begin talking. But would anybody that's in the audience today like to talk about any story or experience they've had with goal setting? Just like to share something that they've about goal setting? Okay. Alyssa, would you like to start off and talk a little bit about goal setting and what it means to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
A big hi to both of you. It's sometimes a little bit hard, like doing the through the webinars, but I hope you're both well. Yeah, look, I'm a bit of a big fan, and Adam is too, of the whole kind of process of goal setting. For me personally, I like to set goals because every time I achieve a goal, I guess, I do feel that sense of success, and that feeling of success really helps motivate me to continue. I have goals that I set in my workspace, but I also have goals that I set in my personal space as well, because I truly believe that you need to have a bit of a balance. Sometimes in work environments, there's a lot of goals that are around, and you kind of seem to be achieving goals for a business, and you may not get that sense of personal satisfaction. So what I've always done is always like to set goals in my personal space as well. This year I've got a few big goals that I'd like to set, and obviously with setting goals like that comes very detailed plans, very detailed sort of smaller goals that go into helping me achieve that big goal. But obviously when I do have goals, it is really about planning and the importance of planning, and not making them too difficult, or not making them too big that like I don't achieve them and therefore don't get the motivation that I really need from them. So yeah, that's obviously why I set goals, but I really do think it's important to have a balance in your life as well. Like, have a balance in the workplace. You'll have goals, but also don't forget to set yourself your own personal goals as well, because this is your life and this is your space, and you know, be able to honour yourself and do what it is that you've always wanted to do. You've got to set yourself little personal goals as well. So that's that's a little bit about my kind of ideas about goal setting there, Adam.
Sounds pretty good to me. You know, I talk about something called, you know, the difference between dreams and goals. Lisa, you talk a little bit about dreams and goals and things like that?
Absolutely. I think all of my goals are dreams that come true.
Okay, that's good. Look, I talk about dreams and goals, and there's a sort of a relationship between your goals and dreams, because effectively a dream is a thought, and a goal is effectively operationalizing that thought process. So a goal is effectively putting into plan my thoughts, and that is really the fundamental difference between the two, and it's a way to sort of help to explain a little bit about what a goal is. We all have thoughts and we all have dreams, and you know, that dream might be to own a desert island and live on that desert island. That might be a dream, but it's not a goal until it becomes operationalized. So until you put a plan of attack, so you have some steps in place to actually draw out you know, like an implementation plan for how you're going to go about it, it remains a dream. Now, the thing about dreams and goals is that they can go between. So, you know, as I say, the idea of a goal is just making a dream a reality by operationalizing it. To use the example, I could have a dream to own an island. The reality of that dream may be a little bit too difficult. Why? It might be too expensive to build a house on an island. You might need a ship, and people will have to come all the way to the island just to build things, and it's just too expensive. It's just unrealistic. So what happens is sometimes our dreams stay as dreams. sometimes we push them into the goal basket and try working on it. But as we start working on it and operationalizing it, we realize that it's not realistic. And that's okay. And I want you guys not to know that it's not a matter of giving up. It's a matter of understanding that, as Alyssa said, you've got to make it realistic. You've got to make it something that's achievable. You can switch between the dream basket and the goal basket. So you can take something out of the dream spot, make it a goal basket, and then you might start working on it and realize, look, this is completely unrealistic. Push it back into the dream basket. It doesn't have to completely go away. It just might be that specifically at that moment of time, you're putting too much energy and focus towards it, and it's just not able to work. So these things can go between, and I want you to know the relationship between the two. Every goal will start with a dream, and it's just a matter of operationalizing it. But it's okay to flip between the two. How does that sound? Just as a bit of an explanation, I guess. To start off.
Yeah, Adam. Look, I think that's a great explanation of that kind of dream and that goal kind of analogy. It's really nice. Like, I think in life we can sometimes sit back and we can think about dreams, and we can have all these dreams that we want to achieve in our lifetime, and we may never achieve them. But it's up to us. Like, we can achieve anything we want, but it's up to us.
Absolutely.
We're the people that make the choice in our lives. Like, yes, I want to turn my dream into a reality, and you can. If you want it, if you want it, you'll be able to do it. And as Adam said, as long as there's an implementation plan in there, as long as there's a process that works to help you get that, you can have anything you want.
Now, a lot of people sit around and they think about all these wonderful things, and but I just don't get motivated to do anything. And it's important for people to know that any goal starts with that process. So in actuality, when you're sitting on the couch and you're thinking about how you'd like things to be a little bit different, and you think you're imagining and dreaming about circumstances that might be different or something that might be different, that's actually your first stage. You're already engaging in the art of putting goals together. And if you've never done a goal before, if you've never actually operationalized a dream of yours before, it might seem a bit confronting, but you're not that far away from it. The thought process is seriously one of the most important parts of it. And yeah, and then moving forward. So another thing that I guess just to talk about, I guess the idea of operationalizing or coming up with a plan for your dreams. The idea of doing that is quite a powerful thing. There's a video on your supplementary list, guys. So when you look at the supplementary materials list, you'll see there's a video down the bottom by a gentleman by the name of Mike Dooley. Excuse me, I mentioned before, it's talking about the power of creative thought and things like that. But the idea between this is an idea called thoughts become things. And there's a bit of it's a little bit floozy, but there is a bit of a science behind it. There's something called a reticular activating system in our brain. And what I'm actually referring to here is that when you your thoughts actually do manifest as things if you give them enough credence to. So if you believe in something and want something, it's actually going to start to come to fruition. Science behind it is what I mentioned before. If you would like to look it up online, it's called the RAS, or the Reticular Activating System. I'll give you an example. Imagine that you're feeling really hungry and you go for a walk down the street. All of a sudden, you start noticing every little cake and donut that's in the shop window. You start noticing the hamburger shop across the road have a deal with chips and blah 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 in their meals. You start noticing all of the different food options around you. Another example of that is when you buy a brand new car, or you buy a new car, and what happens? You start noticing that everybody else in the street is driving the same car, or you start noticing that every second car around is in fact the same car that you just purchased. It's not to say that there are more versions of that car around. There are not. It's just that because you've just gotten this new car yourself, you're noticing it. You start noticing it on others. And this is exactly what we're saying when we say thoughts become things. The idea of when you actually operationalize your dreams, what actually starts happening is that it's in your mind, and things enter that sort of sphere of thought, if you like. So anything that's related to your goal is going to be really obvious and pop up because it's in your mind. You've got a plan, you've got an idea of what you need to do, you've got a thought process, this is what I'm trying to do. What happens is everything that's related to that starts to come into your sphere. It's as if It's as if it's like, it's just good luck or something. It's just, but that's the actual sort of science behind it, if you like. So there is some method to all of this sort of crazy stuff, and we do this for a good reason. What we'd like to do now is, that's a little bit of a, I guess, a good sort of chat, if you like, about goal setting and why we do it and what have you. I'll ask the question again. Any of the guys in the audience, does anybody want to share any experience that they've had with setting goals, whether it might just be something really simple like just to get something done by the end of the week, or something a little bit more long-term, 3 months or a year, to get, I don't know, maybe to get a particular job or to go on an overseas holiday or to change some sort of something in their system. Does anybody have a story that they'd like to share? Okay. Shiji, do you want to unmute your microphone? Do you feel comfortable talking to the rest of the audience?
Okay, everybody, can you hear me?
I can hear you beautifully. Thank you for talking.
Thank you. Sorry?
Alyssa
Okay.
can hear you clearly too.
I can perfect.
Perfectly. Yes, because I have health problems, so I think the best thing is to reduce my weight in order to get back my health.
Sounds good. Sounds good. You've actually put some goals in place. Have you started sort of setting some goals for yourself and setting some time frames around, how much weight you'd like to use and by when?
Because I have tried many years to reduce the weight, but it doesn't seem successful. And this time I try to not put exactly how many kilos I have to reduce, but I just do it like walking every day, in the park for about 15 minutes to 30 minutes like that. Yeah, this is
great.
what I'm going to try.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. Have you got a sort of a time frame where by the middle of the year you'd like to lose X, Y, and Z? Have you got? Is there any sort of time component to it?
Yeah, actually I didn't set any time at this moment.
Yep.
Previously I did set like 1 month I want to lose how many kilo, but I don't think it's successful, this type of thinking. I didn't really lose a lot.
Look, it's without. I don't want to get too personal with your particular example here, only because losing weight is a very, very sort of personal sort of thing. But what I do like to talk about is that with every goal, it's super, super, super duper important that you feel like you know why that you're doing something. So, and I'm sure you absolutely do. But one of the most important things is that you've got to know why you're doing something. So if my goal is to become an astronaut and fly to the moon, I've got to be able to say, well, look, I've been fascinated with space my whole life. I've been thinking about going to the moon. Ever since I was a child, I was reading books about the moon. Whatever the case might be, you just need to be able to know why you're doing something. Otherwise, if you can't 100% find the motivation for why you're doing something, it just becomes more and more difficult as well. So that's just a generic comment on I guess goal setting.
Yeah.
But Gigi, thank you very, very much for sharing that story. That's excellent. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Alyssa, shall we go through the learning activity questions for goal setting for the students?
Yes, we shall. Are they? So yep. I'll open up the learning activities for goal setting. If you're ready to rock and roll.
Let's do it. I think because what we can do is the rest of our discussions about goal setting and so forth, we can actually just slide them into to the responses in each of the questions.
Yeah,
so what
absolutely.
What we're going to do now, actually, for those that missed the beginning of the webinar, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing 6 webinars for each subject. 3 are going to be about the actual material. We're going to be focused on the learning activities. The last 3 are going to be focused on the assessment tasks. So this is the first one. So what we're going to be doing is at the end of discussing the actual topic that we've just done, what we're going to be doing is actually going through each of the questions. And if you guys have questions for us, we might actually just get you to put a little, put your questions into the actual chat window. Like how Shiji did before, put your questions into the chat window, and what we might then do is then ask you to unmute your mic and we can have a bit of a chat at that point. So as you go, if you have any questions, just put them into the window, and we'll also allow some time at the end just for any questions. So it doesn't matter if it's related to this particular subject or not. You can ask any question you like at the end. So let's have a look at the very, very first question. Alyssa, my eyes aren't that good. What is the first question in goal setting?
I'm just going to, so it says, is this a review your current workload and set 2 SMART goals that can assist you to ensure you execute what you are responsible for at work? Show your SMART goals in the space provided and ensure these SMART goals work across 2 different areas of the planning cycle, for example, a 1-week goal and a 90-day goal.
Yep. So really, I guess this question 1 is talking about SMART goals. So it's an acronym that you see. It's quite a common acronym that's used in reference to helping you set a goal. So a SMART goal is really, the idea behind it is that you cover all the bases with your goal. If you can consider your goal as a SMART goal, then it's a good goal. If you're missing one of the elements of it, then your goal isn't 100% correct, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So let's go through each of the actual different parts of the actual SMART goal. So the first one is specific. So the goal needs to be specific. If you're too general and you're too broad, you just sort of, it's like you're throwing a fishing line out to a big pond and hoping that something bites. You need to be a little bit more specific and quite, about what it is that you're doing. So what's a good example of something that's probably not specific, Alyssa?
I want to run a marathon. It's not specific enough.
Pretty specific. No, that's okay. So that's not specific enough. What would make that more specific?
How about I want to go overseas?
That's good. That's good. Yeah. That's good. Or I want to go on a holiday.
Yeah, I want to go on a holiday. Yep.
It's too generic. Because it's too generic, it means that what we were talking about before with like the reticular activating system or how thoughts become things, if you're too generic, then you won't be able to cotton on and grab those little bits that you need to get yourself there. It's just too open and generic, and it's not going to work. So it's really important that it's specific. You want to add anything to this one, Alyssa?
No, I agree with you. I think being specific is the very, very first step. I mean, you've got to own your goal. You've got to know exactly what it is that you want to achieve. You need to have that focus. If you can't name it, then it's very difficult to be able to achieve it. So I mean, it might be a nice one like to test. Sometimes I do weekly goals, so I might have a very specific target that I need to achieve at the end of the week, and I practice my bigger goals by setting smaller goals, but I am very, very specific about that goal. It might be I need to complete 43 assessments by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Okay, so it really does, it can't be too broad, because the broader it is, the less opportunity there is there for you to actually achieve it. So being specific, owning it, knowing exactly what it is the very first step, I think.
It's like when you're asking somebody for help. If you can be really specific about the help that you're acquiring, you're far more likely to receive the help that you need rather than when being a bit generic. So,
yeah.
Like it's, I guess like when you walk into a cafe and you know exactly what you want to eat, you'll find the cafe that's going to serve what you want. You'll find where that is. If you're a bit generic, you'll walk in and you go, yeah, I don't know, have you got something kind of sweet? And it's not always easy to get what you want when you're not 100% sure of what it is you're doing. So specific's really important. The next one is M. Now the word M means measurable. So you've got to be able to measure it. So you've got to be able to, there's got to be, and what we mean by measurable is there's got to be somewhere that you go, done, that's it, I've done it. There's got to be some way. So if I'm wanting to build a house on an island, it's measurable because I know when the house is built, it's done. If I want a job that pays $100,000 a year, it's measurable because I can look at my bank account and go, yes, there's $100,000 going into my bank right now. I can see that. Yeah. So it's just got to be measurable. The A. Alyssa, now the A in our system is what's called achievable. So what we mean by achievable is that, is it able to be done? I mean, if I say to you that I want to be an astronaut and I want to fly and be standing on the moon next Monday, well, that's not achievable. One reason, it takes a lot longer to get to the moon than that. Two, I'm going to have to go back and start studying my whatever, I don't know, what's the I guess
Some like astronautical engineering or something.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So there's a lot of, so that's what we mean by achievable. It's just not achievable in this particular moment of time. The next word in our acronym is realistic. It's the exact same meaning as achievable. So there's a couple of other alternatives. Instead of realistic, you can actually put relevant. Now what relevant means is that why is it important to you? So with any goal, yeah, it's specific, yes, it's measurable, yes, I can achieve it, but what's the relevance? If you can't own that, if you don't know why you're doing something, it's never going to work. So I guess when you're trying to set a new goal for yourself or try and do something for yourself, it's really important that you know why you're doing something. So it's got to mesh with your value system, it's got to mesh with who you identify yourself as being, and so on and so forth. If you don't pick something that's relevant to you, and you have absolutely no interest in it, then it's not going to work. Unless you may not, for example, I don't know if this would be the case, but unless you may really, really dislike classical music, for example, you might set yourself a goal that you want to learn how to play the flute, you want to learn how to play classical flute, but you realise, I really don't even like this music, and so your value system is out with your goals. They're not in line with each other, so it's not relevant to you. It's really not relevant. It doesn't matter if it's achievable. It doesn't matter if you can measure in a specific. It's all those things. Who cares? It's not relevant to you. It's not relevant. And the last one is time. Sorry, yep.
That actually was that was an actual real example of my life, that flute.
Really? That's spooky.
I know. It was a bit spooky.
So you did play flute?
I played the flute and I was like, no, this is not the instrument for me. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough. I played the clarinet, and then I learned, I discovered that wasn't for me. So even though I wanted to do music, it was just, it felt irrelevant for me. There was no connection for it. It wasn't important to me. Whereas the guitar was important to me. And why? Because growing up, my father took me to see blues musicians play. My father was always playing blues music and telling me, okay, listen to this guitar player, listen to this guitar player. And he was super passionate about his love for the blues, and that rubbed off on me. And so when I switched instruments from clarinet to guitar, yeah, it was really relevant. I loved it because I had a connection to it. It was connected to my value set, my value system. So what we're asking for you guys to do for this particular question is just set 2 goals. One for a 1-week goal, and it doesn't really matter what it is for the moment. It's just about getting in practice of using this little acronym SMART. Sorry, the last one is T, time. So you've got to put a time next to it. If you don't put a time next to it, it's never going to get done. Yeah, we'll get it done tomorrow. Yeah, the next day, no worries. You need to set a time. As soon as you set a time, there's a bit of that internal pressure that kicks up, and you get it done. So it's another important factor of having. The way that we want to see these questions answered is we want your first goal, the 1-week goal, and then we want to be able to see, is it SMART? So it has to be realistic, has to be measurable, achievable, relevant, and a time base. So your 1-week goal, so you can set up exactly how Alyssa's set up. Just write your 1-week goal, and you can do it like that. You can have the acronym in front of you and just put each spot, or just write a 1 sentence. I wish to complete the unit of planning by the end of the week, and that's fine. I mean, that's actually that is specific because we're talking about the specific subject. There's a time based on it. It's measurable. It is achievable, and it is relevant to you because you're studying this course right now, and you guys all have reasons for why you're doing this course. So I would like to complete the planning unit by the Sunday, the 18th of January, means that, yes, you've actually got yourself a SMART goal there. So that's your first one. And the second one, you can do something a little bit sort of longer term. Shall we move on to the next question?
Yes, we shall. Let's do it.
Do you have anything to add to that one? Are you happy with that?
No, they're perfect. They're perfect.
Okay, question 2, guys. If you have a look at question 2, what it's actually asking is, now looking at the goals that you just set in question 1, what behaviour will maximise your strengths and test your weaknesses? So all we'd like you to do is just to list a couple of behaviours. Probably the best thing to do is to consider what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. Now, if you identify what your strengths and weaknesses are, you'll be able to identify how they will actually relate to those goals. So I might say, time management as a strength. This is your example, Alyssa?
Yes.
Okay, so talk about what are some of your strengths? Time management?
I would say some of my strengths are time management. In terms of behaviour, I would probably say that I am quite, what's a nice word for it? Not persistent, but persistence, or yeah, I would say that I would say that I would be quite persistent and quite focused when it comes to achieving certain goals. And I do like to, another strength of mine would be that I like to push outside my comfort zone.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So there, really, we're happy if you just list a couple of your strengths and weaknesses, because really the idea behind this is to, if you understand yourself and you understand what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, you've got a better ability to be able to manage that behaviour in relation to your goals. So, yeah, I might be just terrible with time management, terrible at organising things. If I'm aware of that characteristic about myself, then I can do something about it to change, or I can set up some different behaviours for myself. I can actually plan some things, work out a day-by-day schedule for the next week. I can say, this is what I need to do on Monday, this is what I need to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then by Sunday I'm okay. Because my weakness is time management, so I'm going to make sure that I do some of these additional behaviours to counteract that weakness. And in addition, focus on your strengths as well. So what is it that you're really good at? Okay, I'm a great communicator, so what I'm going to do is going to make sure that I put some time aside to pick up the phone and talk to my trainer. I'm going to talk to my trainer about what I need to do to complete this up. I'm a great communicator, so I'm going to zone in and use some of those behaviours. I'm going to talk. My behaviour is going to be that I'm going to talk to my trainer, find an hour, put aside to talk to my trainer about what I need to do to get this unit finished this week. That's all we're kind of looking for question 2.
Yep.
Let's have a look at question 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you got there?
To increase the level of accountability to achieve your SMART goal, what strategies could you put in place, and who could help you to achieve your goal? How could they help you to achieve your goal, and what approach will you use to ask them to assist you?
Okay, so really what I think Alyssa and I are really looking for here as for a response is, with every goal there's other people involved. Now, they may seem somewhat irrelevant at times. If I'm going for a job, who are the people that are involved? Well, the people that are interviewing me, people that work at the company might be a part of it. It also might be friends and family of mine that I'm talking to about saying, okay, I'm applying for this job. I might need somebody to pick me up and give me a lift at the job interview. That's a person that's a part of your goal. They are somebody that's involved. There are very, very, very few goals that don't have other people involved. So this question, we really just want you guys to think about, okay, with each goal that I set, there are going to be other people that are part of this. So I want you to think about who those other people are, and the question is, who can help you and how can they help you? So it might just be a family member to read my resume just to see if there's any spelling errors. That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Now it's also asking, what approach will you take to ask them? So, and depending on the person, if it's a family member, you might just go straight up to them and ask them face to face. If it's a previous boss that you're wanting to know if they can be a reference for you for a job, you might decide to pick up the phone and give them a call. If you just have a particular question for, say you're dealing with an employment consultant, and you might just have a particular question about something, your communication technique might be different. You might decide to send them an email instead. So we just want to know who else is out there that's going to be a part of your goal, how you're going to talk to them, and how do you think that those others are going to really help you?
Yep.
That's what we mean by strategies anyway. But if you come up with other strategies, you can use other strategies. So.
Yeah. And I've just, if you are referring back to the SMART goals that you've done for your 90 days and your weeks as well, I've just put an example in there. If one of the short-term or the weekly based goal, SMART goal, is to make sure that you do complete all your learning activities by Sunday, the 8th of January.
Yep.
Again, as I said, it's really important that goal is not only just about you, it's about how other people can help you. So you might have your husband or your partner look after you for an hour a night, so you can predominantly work on those learning activities so you can help reach that goal as well. So that there's some types of strategies, and sometimes we forget our immediate or our internal family, and they are able to help us with some of those goals as well.
Look, without a doubt, especially when you're looking for work, it's really not easy to ask other people for assistance. It isn't. I mean, But one thing I just like, a little anecdote here, I guess, but one thing I'd just like to say in relation to that is that people like to help. You know, it feels good when somebody comes up to you and say, hey, look, do you mind just giving me a bit of help with something? Is that okay? That person that's just been asked to help them feels fantastic. They feel great. They feel like, oh, I'm really flattered that you've asked me to help you. And they want to help. So as much as it's difficult to ask other people to get involved and to help, just think about it from their perspective, and actually you are actually doing a really nice thing for them by asking them to help you, strangely enough. So focusing on that side of it, it might make it a bit easier. Now there's one more question to complete this learning activity, I believe, Lisa.
There is. It's just going to the next page. Hold on for me for just a second while we load that last question.
Yep. Now, if you're working through your questions and you get a phone call or you have to turn off the computer or do something like that and you've already typed your question out, if you just click on next question, it'll automatically save it for you. So you might only do one question out of the 4. You've typed it in. Something happened. I have to go now and close the computer down. Just click next question. It'll automatically save question number 1, and when you come back to it, question number 1 will be already saved, and there you don't have to retype that answer. So this last question is getting you guys to reflect on a situation where you've been a role model, and the behaviours that you've demonstrated. What were some of the behaviours you demonstrated to get the best from people and to maximise planning and organisational skills?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, Alyssa, what are you looking for here?
Oh, look, I would probably just be looking at a very personal kind of reflective response for this one, because it really is just tell me about a time when you have been a role model. Okay, so everybody's answer is going to be very different because everybody has very unique experiences in this. Now, if you're not working, you might have been a role model to your children, or you might be a role model to a community group or something like that. If it is a workplace, if you want to refer more to your workplace, you might have been a role model by acting or supporting another team member in a certain work-related situation. Maybe they were struggling at work, and perhaps what you did was you got in there and you acted and you supported them through that process. But again, it is a very, very personal kind of reflective response that I guess Adam and I would both be looking for. Just showing us that you have been a role model, telling us about that experience and what behaviours you demonstrated to get the best from that person. How did you support them? What skills did you use to be able to help get them through that process, I guess?
And it could be it could be as straight up as just having a conversation with somebody. I mean, so there might be a situation where you identify with somebody that you know, family, friend, a colleague, another worker, that you just needed to intervene and have a chat with them about something, and that was a time that you sort of displayed some sort of leadership. You saw something happen and you thought, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I speak to this person. I've got an example. I used to work with long-term unemployed students when I was training, and we were doing a bit of goal setting at that time. This is a year or two ago now. I did an activity with the guys about goal setting where I got the whole class to go hunting. To tell me, I was standing up the front on the whiteboard. Tell me, how do you go hunting? How do you catch a food? And when they broke the idea of going hunting, they realised there was about 15 or 20 steps. Now those steps might be, you need to find a tool, you need to find other people to go with you, you need to have that conversation with them, then you need to go off and look for the prey, then you need to stand around the animal, then you need to kill the animal and gut it and bring it back to the town, and then you need to cook. There was 15 or 20 different steps along the way. The interesting part was that to do this goal of finding food and going hunting seemed like too much. It seemed too difficult. But when you actually started breaking things down into little smaller steps, everything started to seem a lot easier. So this is an example that I could use for this particular question, where I assisted other people to get the best out of themselves in terms of planning and organising. Just realising that you can break down a big goal into smaller steps, and it's just much easier to deal with when you've got it in sort of smaller chunks. So that's probably an example that I would use in that scenario. But look, if you just give us an example of the behaviour that you've demonstrated that helped get the best out of other people, regardless if it's planning or organising, just any sort of behaviour that you use to help, energise or motivate others, some way, shape or form, we'd love to hear about it. and that'll be a sufficient answer for that question number 4.
Yep.
Alyssa, have you got anything you'd like to add to this particular subject? The questions, anything like that at all?
No, I mean, I think it'd be nice just to bring some real personalised experience to some of the learning activities as well, especially in this particular unit, because it really is just about managing your personal and professional work priorities. So again, as much of you that you can bring to these questions, because they are quite broad and they're quite open. A lot of the units following this unit can be quite specific, so I really encourage you to just really enjoy the unit, and as I said, just bring a little bit of yourself to it.
Look, it might be a difficult thing if you've never done any goal setting or planning and organisational things before, but without a doubt, this subject, I mean, there's a reason why we're picking it as the first subject, because it's going to be your goals and your plans are effectively going to run side by side throughout this whole course. But this might be the most important assignment that you'll ever do. It's maybe the most important, not important for me, not important for Alyssa, but important for yourself. So it's not about just digging up some theory and putting it on a piece of paper and going, I hope that's what the trainers are looking for with their answers. This is about you identifying your own personal journey and coming up with a personal development plan. And then it's a matter of Alyssa and I helping you work through some of the steps and talking to you on a regular basis each week, and helping you through the course with the goal in mind that you have your personal plan in place and that you've got some outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So that's why we say that these assessments in this particular subject may be the most important assessment assignment you ever do. So it's exciting.
Yep, I agree.
Just to close up the webinar today, does anybody have any questions? Anybody like to ask any questions about anything at all, any subject, any assessment, any assignment, anything you like? We have a very, very quiet audience, Alyssa, for our first webinar.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, that's all good. Yeah. I mean, it just means that we've done our job very well, Adam.
Sounds good. That's what I like to hear. I'm happy with that response. Well, that's basically going to wrap up the first webinar. Thanks for tuning into the very, very first webinar, guys. If you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, if you have any questions at any stage, as mentioned, please message your trainer through the Message My Trainer tool on the site. We hope this has been helpful. If you have any feedback about the webinar, anything you'd like to see as far as improvements go, you're more than welcome to send Alyssa or myself an email and let us know what you'd like to see. We're here to help you guys, so these are designed to be, supportive for you guys, all students. So we're very, very, very much keen to hear what you have to say. Okay. Thank you too. Thank you.
Great.
That basically
All right.
wraps it up.
Have a great day, everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see you at the next webinar. Tune in for the next one. Always have a look. We'll be posting each week the session times for each webinar. Have a look and also check in with your course homepage. Sorry, the subject home. So planning subject. Click on planning and you'll see uploaded links to the actual registrations as well as previous webinars will be up there very, very shortly. Thanks, guys.
Good.
See you at the next webinar.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You still there, Adam?
Yeah, I'm looking for, there it is.